Hey everybody, Matt McCarthy at the Fantasy Sports Network, Studio 34 in New York City for Rugby Wrap Up. Talking rugby, and I have my Scottish friend Steve Lewis in the studio. And it's appropriate, Steve, because we're going to talk a little Glasgow Warriors and connections to the USA. And why are we doing this, Stephen? Because the Glasgow Warriors asked us to. So, and we like them. And you're Scottish.
We love the Glasgow Warriors. That's my team.
And didn't you get a cap with the Glasgow Warriors?
They weren't the Warriors then. It was just called Glasgow. It was just a district side. It wasn't professional. But yes, I did play in a wet and windy Wednesday night at Hughenden against Connacht, an Irish province. So yes, I did play for Glasgow many moons ago.
And Connacht was obviously accustomed to cold, wet weather, so there was no advantage there.
No advantage there.
And don't you ever say just and then demean your...
It's self-deprecating.
I don't like that because it is an accomplishment, ladies and gentlemen. I would be... See, conversely, I was saying, yeah, I had a great cap. It's probably one of the best matches in Glasgow history. There's a difference.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Yeah.
But anyway, many connections between Glasgow Warriors and American rugby now. Obviously, the key one is the CEO, Nathan Bombers. So he is the only American running a professional rugby side in Europe. So I've had the pleasure of meeting him a couple of times. He's been over quite a lot. He's reasonably well engaged now with the American rugby community, and he's the main man. He has been responsible for driving some of their commercial success and ultimately responsible for the on-field success as well. They've done extremely well over the last few years. What's interesting about Nathan is, obviously with an eye for, I wouldn't say cheap talent, but an eye for talent that is foreign, that is not as expensive.
Let's call it raw.
Yeah, but he's given Americans a chance.
Yes.
I thought a particularly ill-ventured decision was the one to take Carlin Isles. Just essentially, he's a top-of-the-ground player, wet, muddy tracks, before Scotstoun was an artificial surface. That wasn't a good decision. He took a chance on Lange from the Pro Rugby San Francisco thing. We had some dealings about that.
The freight train number 8?
Yep.
Yeah.
He just couldn't... knuckle down, shall we say, to the grind of professional rugby life, and so couldn't hack it.
Big jump.
In addition, they have offered David Tanlow a contract. Actually, not sure what that is right now. That seems to have receded into the background. And obviously, our guest today, Greg Peterson, has been there for 3-4 years now. So he is ideally qualified to discuss Glasgow Warriors and American rugby.
And Steve, you gave it away. But it's okay because you're Scottish and they're your boys. But we do indeed have an interview with Greg Peterson, with Jack Reed, the communications man over there with the Glasgow Warriors, asking the questions of Greg Peterson, who's a Team USA star and Glasgow Warriors star and as big as Jim Hamilton. Let's check it out on our AFIA Sports Training Group monitor. That's the AFIA Sports Training Group, working in partnership with Rugby Wrap Up to promote rugby across the community in the US, UK, and beyond. Check it out.
Hi, Jack Reed here at Scotstoun Stadium in Glasgow. Here's my interview with USA Eagle Greg Peterson for Rugby Wrap Up.
Back in an Eagle shirt after a while out, what does it mean to you playing for your country?
Oh, I love it. You know, it just represents my family, my heritage, everything like that. Like growing up in Sydney, Australia, yeah, I mean, you know, there's a bunch of heritage there, but I very much lived in an American household. Every Sunday morning, the old man would wake me up early and we'd watch, you know, college ball or football or whatever it was that was on. We're always thoroughly into it, and always to pull on those stars and stripes and, you know, sing God Bless America. You know, it's awesome.
And then that game against Scotland. When you came back here, were you strutting around with your head held high? What was it like playing against your Warriors teammates?
It's hard to strut your head held high because, you know, they did play a very good game of rugby. You know, we just happened to nudge it out towards the end. I felt knowing those blokes so well, it gave me, you know, I really wanted to dig in and, you know, get a good result against them. But also I did feel for them just as much because I know them so well. You know, Hoggy getting his first cap as captain, you know, Matt Fagg and George Horn and Hastings all getting their first start. So I know, I've been in their position, I know what it's like to get your first cap and you want to start off on a really good foot. So I know what it's like to be in that position. So I felt bad almost in that sense, but as a stepping stone for America towards the World Cup, and it's been building for so many years now, like it should have been Italy a couple of years ago, I thought. It's unfortunate that it had to be a team that I really do respect.
But what does it mean for America as a nation to finally beat a tier 1 rugby team?
Yeah, huge. You know, it's going to help us be able to build a lot of support towards the World Cup, both fan-wise and financially wise. And just as a team, our own self-belief. Like, we didn't have a great World Cup campaign last time. And to be able to roll in, I can't remember how many games we're undefeated, but I think it's, I want to say 9 games or 8 games undefeated, and to roll into the November tests against, like, you know, big Irish sides, New Zealand Maoris, to roll into those games, and also, you know, and the ARC after that, we're just building great momentum towards that World Cup, and, you know, we're aiming for something big.
And personally, is that World Cup something you've got an eye on, and something you'll be thinking about when you're playing for the Warriors? Yeah,
definitely. You know, there's great competition within the Eagles squad now. Gary Gould's created some real continuity within the squad, and, you know, I've got to perform here to be able to put my hand up over there. If I'm not playing here, then, you know, it's going to be hard. So I've got to push just as hard to keep, you know, to compete with Johnny and Swinno, and Scotty Cummins and Briz and Kieran and all them, you know, who will be competing for a Scottish jersey, but I've got to be competing just as hard for my own USA jersey. And what are your opinions on the new professional league out in America? What have you seen of that? It's great, you know, for those players, those domestic players, to be getting week in, week out, good footy, good training, and against good competition, you know, not just what the club level was beforehand, but for those players to be playing at that level, you know, for a good 3 months, that changes everything. You know, and you can definitely see the difference with those MLR players. You can definitely see the difference. You know, there's still a bit of tweaks here and there. It's going to take a couple years before it really kicks off and really keeps growing. But, you know, you see it definitely moving in the right direction.
And we're back. Steve, pretty cool, right?
Excellent job.
And first of many that we're going to have with Glasgow, because Glasgow is thinking out of the box, and we like that.
Good to see American thriving in God's country.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see what Greg had to say about the win over Scotland. You know, he's very diplomatic. He did make a point of saying that he would have preferred to beat a team that he didn't respect as much in Italy.
Yeah, well, you know, as we discussed many a time when you tried to bait me, you know, my new country beat my old country.
I get it, but from an American standpoint,
fantastic occasion.
They beat a higher ranked squad in Scotland.
Exactly, and
right?
Congrats to them.
Oh, you're good. He's good, ladies and gentlemen. You know, he's class, all class. That Steve Lewis. And Steve,
red, white, and blue.
Very good. Very good. Very good. And thanks to Jack Reed and Greg Peterson from Glasgow Warriors, and we look forward to more of that. And Steve, just like that, we are out of time.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a slice.
Indeed,
peachy. Just peachy.
Indeed, it has been a peachy Steve Lewis. Not that he's fruity. And on that note, we are out of time again, as I said earlier. But Steve, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Godspeed. Matt McCarthy for Steve Lewis, Greg Peterson, and Jack Reed for Rugby Wrap Up here at the Fantasy Sports Network in Midtown Manhattan, talking rugby. Signing off.